Hi, everyone. Thanks for spending this time with me. Today, I decided I want to continue my thoughts on wellness and share how I've made minor design adjustments in my home to support my self-care and transform it into the sanctuary that I need. This is food for thought for you to take an assessment of your home and determine, are your personal spaces serving your self-care? This is episode number 3. Let's go.
You're listening to Designing Midlife, a podcast about today's midlife woman. Ladies, we're more youthful, active, and demanding than any midlife generation before. Join Taj as she dispels the notion of crisis. Learn to conquer in all facets from health to career and design the midlife of your dreams.
So I take the title of my show, Designing Midlife, both as a metaphor, but also quite literally. By nature of all things me, there is an element of design in probably everything that I do. In fact, without it even being front of mind, I got a text from my amazing sis, Allison, the other day. We regularly just kind of reach out and, to catch up and share and, whatever it is, gossip, whatever it is. And probably primarily to report on, how we were doing that week with our diet and, what were the gains or the defeats. So one evening, I sent her a couple proud pictures of what I was cooking that night, and her reply, both had my eyes widen and my smile went so deep. She said, "Your food is too pretty to eat. You even designed your cooking." I got to tell you, I don't even think about it, right? And whether you recognize it or not, I believe we all have some sense of creativity and sensitivity to design. Or probably more simply, at the very least, that element of presentation, right? A lot of us can, we think about how we style our shots for social media or, whether it's that beautiful table shot in a restaurant of what we're eating or even just simply making sure we have the right backdrop when we're taking a photo. So I think I'm saying we all in some way possess this appreciation of not only what looks good, but also what feels good. And when I'm working on design projects and I'm with clients in their home, our most personal space, one of the first questions I ask is, how would you like your home to feel? What's the vibe you want to live in? For me, we have a small home and a large extended family, and I love to have them over from time to time. So I designed my home with this in mind, but I also styled my home to feel like a retreat. I'll tell you what I've done and in hopes of maybe you'll get some ideas for your home as well. So I start from the ground up, right? When my husband and I purchased our home, this is our starter home, maybe 15, 16 years ago. By nature of it being a starter home, the plan was we'll be here for, maybe 10 years or so. And, clearly that mark has come and passed us. And although we house hunt probably weekly, we simply love our home. I intentionally searched for a fixer-upper. I dreamed of all the fun I would have, with the renovation. And, thankfully the Hubs is very handy like that. So we saved a lot with him doing a lot of the work. And now that I'm saying that out loud, then that very well may be why he stalls on the idea of moving, because I'd most certainly select another fixer-upper. I love the process and I would do it, again, time and time over. But we live in South Florida, and 16 years ago, when, before we moved into the home and I wanted to do the flooring, I wanted wood floors, and wood floors, it just wasn't our thing at that time, at all. The heat and, it wasn't the scene for South Florida. wood laminate was coming on the design scene. And I'd always envisioned this cozy, beachy wood floors for my home. And, wood floors, they kind of immediately have that effect, right? They just warm a space up. That's what they do. And so I convinced the hubs to, please trust the vision. And, we went for it. I had quite a few skeptics, at the time. And, primarily because we were in an era where, the really large white or off-white tiles or, marble-like tiles were on trend. And, but it wasn't my vibe. I didn't feel it. It didn't feel like my home. But the tone for our home was set with our flooring. It's a birch wood and a very nice subtle wood grain. And, it feels for us, it just feels like home. It's the vibe. Everything is about the vibe. And I'm painting this picture because I want you to think about your home and, and the vibe that your home gives you. And if you're renting or, have flooring that you're not, particularly in love with, then when you think about flooring, I would suggest you, think about, really nice oversized area rugs because they work really magically as well. But, life changes. 16 years later, the journey has been interesting. And as we have changed, our needs have changed as well. Back then we were a young couple and, we were always hanging out and friends coming over and, eventually, kids came and, all that wild and precious activity that comes along with this journey of parenthood. And in the blink of an eye, our baby is now a teenager. It goes so fast, right? And I hate to sound cliche, but that's so true. It goes so fast. And although we're still in the thick of this parenting thing, we're both very different now. We've changed and the needs of our home have changed as well. So I asked myself, could this be related to midlife? Absolutely. I think so. What's the big picture when we think about our homes serving us as our sanctuary? What does that even look and feel like? When I'm working on a design project and the client shares what type of vibe they want their space to have, we then start with this quick exercise of kind of like identifying those buzzwords, right? When I teach, I also, I preach that design is this problem solving exercise and it's like the ultimate happy solution. So the guide to that happy, how do you get to that happy? It starts with this list of buzzwords. For me, that's my process. So what are the buzzwords when we think about this idea of retreat and sanctuary? Peace is one for me, right? A space to unwind, privacy, relaxation, inspiration, something that's very personalized, right? A space that is clutter-free, and all while being surrounded by, our things that we love. Our vibe has evolved into this beautiful list of dreamy adjectives. If you're with me and you feel, some of the buzzwords that I just listed and you crave for that, that's just a part of where we're evolving to or where we're at now in life. Do we still want adventure? Absolutely. And that goes for in the home and otherwise, we're not negating that, but we're talking about how do we make sure that our home is serving us in the ways that we need. Find myself from time to time, checking out those top retreat vacation spots and wellness spas and, all in pursuit of that same peace and relaxation, right? I feel I have to go away for it, right? Whether it's for a moment, a day or, a weekend getaway, but I want that. I need that to be there in my home too. It's where most of us are every day, where we spend the majority of our time. And I'm continuously working on mastering that vibe in my home. I'll tell you some things that I've already done. The first thing I declared was, and this was big for us, is no more off-limit zones. And I killed that notion. I had never intended to have this put together living room where no one felt like they had the freedom to use or explore, but it happened, right? Probably for all of us. And our go-to is the family room, right? Or the den, wherever the TV is. And that's where, we hang out and, nap or whatever. And I had to say, in taking my assessment, I'm walking around, I said, why do we have this secluded living room? Or why don't we use this living room? And it was never a thing that was verbalized, no one go in the living room, but as probably comes from our upbringing, right? A lot of us culturally, we just don't, the living room is just kind of like off limits. So I changed that right away. And for us, all that took was rearranging the furniture in that space. My living room is in the front of my home. And so I have these huge floor to ceiling windows in that space. And I wanted all of my seating to face the front garden area. It's a little privatized because we have kind of like a low wall that's somewhat blocking the walkway to our front door. And I felt like, it's always this beautiful space because that's my husband's thing. He loves anything outdoors in the home, whether it's the gardening or, that's his space of I'm interior, he's exterior. And so I have this beautiful space and I said, we don't enjoy it. And so I wanted the living room, or I have transformed the living room to be this space for reflection, I guess. It's a nice spot for reading, but also chatting with someone and sharing a glass of wine, anything along those lines. And it's just a very cozy spot to just sit, and even if it's just to look out the window and just chill. What I noticed more practically, and I recently ordered, is that the seat cushions, in my seating, it's kind of like a sectional seating where you can like rearrange and break up the pieces, but the seat cushions were a bit hard. So although I've been intentionally trying to spend more time in that space, the seating experience was a little bit off for me. It's still not there. But no surprise, right? Because we never use the space. So the cushions have never really had an opportunity to kind of be worn in and get really comfy. But I'm switching them out. I've ordered those and, ordered something that's just a little bit more, I guess, comfy and, just makes you kind of feel like you want to grab a soft throw and, wrap yourself up and just chill. So the ultimate goal for the spot, once I, fix what I feel is a lingering problem there with the comfort level of the cushions, is I want it to be this space for, whether it's a nap or, just hanging over there with my son in our PJs and, our feet up and playing Scrabble, or with the husband, with coffee and dessert and, chatting about work and, and family and things like that. And so I see it as this really important part of our home and a space that we have used not much at all. So it turns out that we discovered right in front of us this really valuable real estate in our home, our quaint little bungalow that we call it, that was disturbingly underutilized. And now we feel it's a major win in creating, this retreat at home. Another design change that I made recently was in the bedroom. I have double French doors that overlook our backyard, and it's a very private backyard. But my curtain panels were a bit on the heavy side. So I changed out the panels for a white linen gauze type material. And now we're experiencing this very dreamy view into the backyard, and my bedding has always been white, so it worked out really nicely. I also switched out, we had beautiful but pretty large nightstand lamps, and I wanted my favorite flower is orchids, and I wanted, to have white, nicely potted orchids on each nightstand. So I wanted to make space for that. So I added the orchids and I switched out the lamps to a very slim, modern, lamp. It's on dimmers so that, we can adjust the lighting in the space. And probably before the dimmers, we would use, I guess, maybe candles from time to time. But that, those really small upgrades would have made such a really huge difference. And again, the vibes, right? The next thing that is probably a staple in our home and is a key element to what I consider self-care is music. I don't know how much you value music in your life. I guess it varies for everyone. For us, it's a very important vibe element, for the home. And, we have a speaker system throughout the home, and it's pretty dated, in terms of technology, because we can't plug in our phone or anything like that to play our playlist. But, it plays the radio. It still sounds really, really nice. And we're a light FM, kind of couple, I guess. So it's like a soft background music that, is playing. We love like a 70s, 80s light FM, groove if it's just something playing in the background. I'm a disco loving 70s girl. So when I kind of want to just sing along and dance a little bit, if I'm doing something in the house, whether it's kind of cleaning or laundry or anything like that. And, it's kind of Stephanie Mills and a little bit of the Bee Gees and Earth, Wind and Fire, that kind of vibe. And if we want it slower, it's kind of probably like a Sade Maxwell type vibe. But probably what gets as equal airplay as the light FM is our reggae. We're reggae loving Jamaicans in this household. And, when we're roots vibing, it is old school reggae for hours to no end. So, but there's always music, and who wants to dispute the fact of the effects of music on our mood and our mindset is, we could talk about that because it makes a huge difference for us anyway. Then there's color. And I recognize a lot of people struggle with color. Even in my classes, there's this expectation that I'm going to say, this is the perfect pink that matches this particular gray kind of thing. And that's really not how color works. Color is a vibe. Color is very key for creating the vibe. As taught to me in design school when I took a class in color, and as I teach in my, to my students now, color evokes that feeling, and I want you to think about that, because the way we feel when we enter a space has so much to do with the application of color. I've always had a very soothing, soft color palette that's, layered on top of my birchwood flooring in my home. It's always been like that since we've had the home. On my walls, it's a very soft, kind of want to say grayish tan blend that's on the walls. It's very light, but it's, it pops enough with, a crisp white baseboard and white door frames and things like that. And, I incorporate a lot of texture and pattern and in the furnishings and, with throw pillows and other accessories. And, I bring in brighter pops of color with my artwork and, little trinkets and decorative objects and things like that. It's my vibe. It's absolutely my vibe. And I know all of this is a lot to think about, right? All of our homes are different. I kind of painted this picture of my home, for you to kind of assess your home. It's all good things. And just as we evolve as people, So should everything else that's in our control evolve around us. And our home is there to support this journey, our needs, our well-being. And that's just how I interpret the role of the home. My ask of you would be for you to think about all that you love currently in your home, and only that. It's easy for us to kind of pinpoint and focus on what we'd like to change, but just really pay attention to what exists that you love and focus on the positive and determine if you're really enjoying that to the fullest. Declutter. And I know that's not easy for us to do, to kind of let go and, because we feel we need these things. And at some point in the future, once we get rid of it, when we need it, it's gone. But to clear space, is also to clear the mind. And decluttering it's hard, but it's essential. It really, really, really is so important. So focus on the vibe. Remove everything that, doesn't support it, because truthfully, we no longer need it. Slowly just take your time and create that space that, kind of makes you feel eager to get home to every single day. You'll start to crave it because it will truly become your sanctuary. Before I close out, I want to mention that I'm adding a new element to the Designing Midlife community. There were several listeners that had comments and questions from episode 2, and they came primarily in my DMs. Really good questions that, when I read them, I'm like, gosh, these really shouldn't be private. So the intention for the podcast is to build this community that both you and I need and receive the feedback. Or the feedback coming in privately is really not serving that goal, right? So our website, designingmidlife.com, is up, and I'd love for you to just visit. There's not much there right now. The 2 episodes are there, and but I want you to join the community. I would like for you to subscribe, and you'll only receive, the latest as each episode drops. You can also leave questions and comments for each episode on the website. And then that way I can respond publicly so everyone can see and contribute and learn and, all that good stuff. And until next time, one love.